There's a detail in this recording that most people don't notice the first time they hear it. It isn't obvious, it doesn't jump out, and that's exactly why it stays with you. Because once you realize it's there, the entire file feels different, heavier, as if it was never meant to be heard casually. At first, it sounds ordinary, almost forgettable. A man speaking into his phone, outdoors, slightly out of breath, doing what thousands of people do every day without thinking twice. But this recording isn't remembered for what is said, it's remembered for what exists underneath it. Elias Morrow was 34 years old. He lived alone in a small border town where forests stretch farther than roads and silence feels permanent. He worked in telecommunications maintenance, specializing in old infrastructure, outdated transmission towers, abandoned relay points, places that no longer served a purpose but still existed, quietly aging in the background of modern life. Elias liked routine. He logged everything: locations, timestamps, signal behavior. Friends described him as cautious, grounded, not the type to exaggerate or panic. If something felt wrong, he would document it, not dramatize it. That's why what happened next unsettled everyone who knew him. On a Tuesday morning, Elias left his apartment carrying a small backpack and a thermos of coffee. Security footage later confirmed the time. He told his sister he'd be back before nightfall. The job was simple: check interference reports near an old tower deep in a forested area where reception had been unstable for weeks. He arrived a few hours later and sent a short text saying the signal was strange but manageable. It was casual, normal. That message went through without delay. It was the last text he ever sent. What followed wasn't a phone call, it wasn't a video. It was a voice message, sent automatically through a messaging app to a contact saved only as the letter M. No last name, no description, no known connection. Investigators would later confirm that no one could identify who M was. The number was deactivated within days. The audio file is just over a minute long. At first listen, nothing seems wrong. Elias sounds calm, focused. He mentions the interference, the trees, the wind. There's nothing urgent in his voice, nothing alarming. It feels like a routine update, the kind that would be normally ignored and forgotten. But beneath his voice, there's another sound. At first, most people assume it's interference, static caused by weak reception. But it doesn't behave like static. It isn't random. It follows a pattern, uneven, repetitive, almost organic. When Elias pauses, the sound doesn't stop. When he speaks again, it doesn't align with his breathing. Two rhythms exist in the same recording, overlapping but never syncing. Halfway through the message, Elias stops speaking for a moment. The pause stretches longer than expected. When he continues, his tone has shifted. Not dramatically, just enough to be noticeable. He says there's someone there. He doesn't ask a question. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't describe what he sees. He simply states it, as if acknowledging it out loud might help him understand it. Then he adds something else. He says it doesn't make sense. In that moment, the background sound becomes clearer, not louder, closer, more defined, as if whatever is producing it has moved nearer to the phone without making any other noise. Then the recording ends. There's no impact sound, no struggle, no abrupt movement. The file simply stops. Mobile carrier data later revealed that Elias's phone remained connected to the network for 17 minutes after the audio was sent. No calls were made, no messages received. Then the device went offline completely. Search teams were dispatched that same afternoon. They found Elias's car parked near the trailhead, exactly where it should have been, locked, undisturbed. Inside were his tools, his wallet, his keys, everything except his phone. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken branches, no clear footprints leading away from the area. The forest showed no evidence that anyone had left it. Before continuing, consider this carefully. If you realized you weren't alone in a place where no one else should be, would you keep recording or would you leave immediately? That question matters more than it seems. According to reconstructed timelines, Elias remained in the area for several minutes after the recording ended, long enough for something to change, long enough for a decision to matter. The transmission tower he was sent to inspect added another layer of confusion. It had been officially decommissioned years ago. No active power source, no data transmission, yet internal diagnostics showed a brief electrical spike around the time Elias arrived. Not enough to send information, just enough to disrupt surrounding signals. Some investigators dismissed it as coincidence, others didn't. Audio specialists were brought in to analyze the recording. They confirmed that the background sound wasn't environmental noise. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an artifact caused by compression or interference. It had depth, structure. It was breathing, and it didn't match Elias's. As the case gained limited attention online, people began listening to the file repeatedly. Some claimed they noticed subtle changes over time. The duration never shifted, the words remained the same, but the background seemed more pronounced with each playback, as if something buried within the audio had slowly surfaced. Locals came forward with stories they hadn't initially shared. A low, continuous sound heard in the forest that morning. Not an animal, not machinery, something hollow, almost metallic, as if air were being forced through something that wasn't meant to carry it. Despite extensive searches, Elias Mauro was never found. No remains, no phone, no explanation. 2 years later, the case was officially closed due to lack of evidence. The audio file was archived and labeled inactive, just another unsolved incident buried beneath paperwork and time. But some things don't stay buried. People who have listened to the recording describe a strange effect. Not fear exactly, awareness, a heightened sensitivity to silence, to pauses, to moments where something feels just slightly out of place. Because sometimes the most unsettling part of a story isn't what was captured, it's what happened after the recording stopped. And this was the last audio sent before everything went quiet.